are so excited that today we are interviewing Annabelle Lopez Ochoa, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting on several occasions and the honor of supporting her work, Modest with the Joffrey and Little Prince with Ballet X, fabulous Christine Cox. So good morning, thanks so much.
Good morning and good afternoon from my side of the world.
And where are you and what are you doing these days?
I'm in Amsterdam, back home, where I'm not used to be, because usually I travel the world in the 7 seas, and I'm usually home maybe 2 months a year, and now I've been home much longer than 2 months. So, but it came at a good time because I just got married in February, so it's like an extended honeymoon.
What? I didn't know that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
After 16 years of relationship without, okay, let's tie the knot, let's do it.
Oh my goodness, this is such wonderful news. Congratulations. And an extended honeymoon. So I take it being locked down together is actually going fairly well.
It's going fairly well. We just, purchased the house that we've been living in for 16 years. And now I'm painting all the walls, like this one behind me.
So you probably know I'm Dutch. My family's actually from the northern Netherlands, from Friesland.
Okay.
And Amsterdam is one of my absolute favorite cities in the world. So I'm rather jealous, as a matter of fact. Okay, so we'll just get started. One more time, congratulations. Tell us about the first piece that you choreographed.
So I've choreographed since the age of 11. So I've had a lot of pieces that even didn't have a title. But I would say that officially my first piece was when I was 24 years old with Scapino Ballet. There was a workshop. And I made a piece called Symbiosis, and it was based on the friendship of these two female dancers of the company that were living together, and they finished each other's sentences. And at the time I was very much into Buddhism, and I wrote a French rhyme as I was, commuting every day from Amsterdam to Rotterdam. And, the idea was that they were one, a very symbiotic unit, and they had to say retrouver le sourire d'un visage oublié. And so that 3/4 rhyme became a waltz and became with percussions, and it was 7 minutes long. And then the girl got injured, one of them, and so I had to step in and perform my own piece, which is horrible for choreographers. Then you see how intricate they are. And then we, the piece was very successful and was, sold to schools. So that was my very first piece.
What a lovely story. And I'm fascinated that it's two female spirits bonding. It's not the typical romantic Romeo and Juliet. It's soul to soul, right?
Yeah, indeed, yes.
So what's the latest piece? Or you may have multiple pieces going on right now.
Well, the latest piece that I really choreographed was Frida, that premiered on 6th of February. But then after that, I traveled to Tulsa and I was restaging Vendetta. And when I restage, I'm one of those choreographers that I just question myself again. I look at the piece, I turn it inside out, and I re-choreographed, I think, 60% of it. So it feels very much like Vendetta, a mafia story, is my latest work. And I made it originally for Le Grand Ballet Canadien 2 years ago. And what I changed in the script, it's based on The Godfather. What I changed in the script is that The Godfather has 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. But right before he dies, he chooses his daughter to be the next godfather. And I wanted to give a different role to a female classical ballerina. A role of a badass, instead of just always be, the romantic, the one that needs to be saved, the one that needs to hurt. She, you see her as a young girl, she gets married, she gets children, but then she gets chosen. And then she turns to be even worse and more, violent than her father, and all in the name of the family.
Of course. So it's interesting because I am a Sopranos fan, and when Tony goes over back to the old country, it is a woman who's running the family. What a fascinating idea. We just missed each other in Tulsa too, which makes me really sad because I was going to come down, meet the company, and meet you. I do want to ask you about revisiting a ballet. So do you always rework substantially, or is this a little bit more unusual that 60% got changed?
Well, that was a little bit unusual also because what happened 2 years ago, I had chosen music that was was film music. And that's when, you know, the regulations about the use of film music for ballet changed. And so 50 minutes of my ballet music was canceled 2 weeks before, 6 days before the premiere.
Oh
And so
boy.
I had to find music at the very last moment. And so I wasn't so happy with all of the choices that that I made at that time. So it was a nice, revenge to vendetta to rethink the music choice, and I have more time. But also, yeah, I am the type of choreographer that every time I come to a company, I believe that, it has to be fitted and suited to the dancers in front of me, and they might give me other things that the other dancer didn't. And so I find that it enriches the piece. And at the same time, I can, look at my younger self as a choreographer and think, really, why did I do this piece like that? And so, yeah, like I say, I always, try to get better and to improve.
So this brings up a bunch of questions for me. One is very basic. Do you record all your pieces? Because at this point, how many ballets have you choreographed?
I think I have over 100
Oh my
ballets.
goodness. I can't
Companies.
even remember 100 things. So do you archive them? How do you organize them? How do you keep them?
Yes, I archive them, so I'm always, in touch with the latest of the latest, smallest camera. So everybody will know me with my little GoPro camera. And usually the dress rehearsal, I just put it there, large, shot, just to have everything. Because in the beginning, like 15 years ago, I would go fancy and do some, zoom in and close ups on dances. And then you have no idea what happens in the piece.
Yep.
And you have to stage the piece again, then you have to re-choreograph it. So yes, I have all my 100 ballets. Maybe I miss one or two. I have them on my hard disk and I record them myself.
I'm fascinated with having that large a back catalog. It's got to be interesting. And I wonder if you ever go and revisit your own works just for fun.
Well, no, I never watch my works just for the fun of watching it. But if somebody asks me, hey, I heard about that piece that you made 12 years ago, I'll be like, oh, yes, I have it somewhere. And so sometimes, I look at it and I was like, oh, that was actually not so bad because, I'm really critical about my work. So, and sometimes I can feel the first 2 minutes like, oh, that was not successful. And I know why.
Interesting. So here was the other question that came up as a result of what you were thinking. Totally unfair because you didn't prepare this. Have you ever just walked into something and it's one of those days and the dancer got injured or you didn't have the music? What do you do, or has that happened to you when things aren't going the way they're supposed to be? And can you give us some examples? I'm thinking particular of younger choreographers, and by now I've seen you overcome so many things. How do you cope? I mean, is it your Buddhism? Do you just sort of one task, next task? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I dealt with it not so long ago where I came with a preconceived idea of a company, and I really chose the wrong subject, the wrong music. It was way too serious for who they were. And so on day two, I changed the music and I thought, let's make a piece, with whatever I have in front of me. And I think that, that's what as a young choreographer, I would prepare a lot, but I should never prepare too much. That's what I've learned, because the magic happens in the studio and the magic is within the dancers. They are there to give you things, and it's up to me to catch it, mid-air.
And I'm sure by now you trust yourself and know I've got it. If I need to, I can make changes on the fly, etc. You mentioned your first
I
piece of
trust the
Yoshi.
muses. Wait a second. I trust the muses. I am just
Ah,
an employee. I'm a vector of the muses. So I think that the muses are in the studio. There's a certain energy that's gathered because of the concentration and the deadline and the willpower that we want to create art. And it's up to me to, find that intuition and sensitivity to listen to the muses, and they're telling me in my ears what has to happen. But I think, some dancers are also in touch with those muses, and they're like they jam with you, and other dancers are like, so what do you want? So I always say, I'm not making the piece, it's already there, it's just I happen to be really sensitive.
interesting. So it's almost like you're channeling. sort of
Yes.
divine energy or some kind of energy in the room, which makes it difficult to recreate it every day in another place on a different company. And
Yeah, that's why for me, what's most important is the commitment of dancers. I believe that was one of your questions. To make a good piece is not to have the best dancers. It's to have the dancers who are committed to create something wonderful and amazing. And if that's the mindset, then, you know, miracles happen.
so we've been hearing a lot about your broken wings and then subsequently Frida. So, and I've seen the pictures. It looks extraordinary. I can't wait to see. Please tell us a little bit more.
Well, 5 years ago, Tamara Rojo, director of English National Ballet, wanted to, invite me to make a one act of a woman that was damned and doomed from literature and history. And she sent me a list of women, and Frida Kahlo was not on that list. And I thought about it for a month, and I kept, Frida Kahlo kept coming to my mind, like she was like knocking. And so I just, sent an email to Tamara and said, thank you for your list, but I would love to do something about Frida Kahlo. And it happened that she was a huge fan of Frida Kahlo. So there we go. We create Frida Kahlo. And 10 days before the premiere, I felt that this should be a full-length piece. And so I, asked to meet Miss Tamara Rojo in her office. And I told her my idea, and she was like, okay, I'll, talk about it to my artistic team. Let's see if we can make it happen. And, they couldn't. They had already their whole planning for 4 years. So that wasn't not on the planning artistically, not in the budget. So it wouldn't happen. But still, at the end of the 9 shows at Sadler's Wells, I still came back and said, the first scene of the second act is actually this happens. And so 5 years later, Ted Branson was looking for a piece, a full length that was new, but also not too new. So he was thinking of Streetcar Named Desire. And then he said, what about Broken Wings? And I said, well, there you go. That's my dream. I would love to make Frida. And that's how it came about.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. I did finally get to see your streetcar in Nashville, I think, and I was so impressed. I was really moved by it because to have the story told from a woman's point of view and less as, she's a harlot, as some sort of cutout character, as a feeling person with the backstory, completely revolutionized it for me. What are you doing to stay productive? You're always productive. And then what are you doing? What are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to that we are going to be able to give live performances again. It's not looking bright right now, but Holland is slowly coming out of the deconfinement period. So from 1st of June next week, we can have performances with 30 people in the audience, which is not much, but they're open air theaters, so they're going to give small performances and see how the virus behaves when people gather together. And right now, what I've been doing, well, it's been, first I was, cleaning my house like a mad woman. Then I started painting every wall. It was, I think psychologically it helps to like paint and see if you want to, you keep everything or you just throw everything. Then I started painting every wall in my house and, constructing my little nest. And then I started, I had a friend who called me and said, well, my husband is ending his career and he has no performance. Would you be willing to create a duet for us? And so I did that. There were 2 dancers of the Norwegian opera ballet. And then I made my first Zoom choreography and we created a video with it. And it went online. We had 20,000 views, so that's amazing. And so now I'm doing, online choreographies here and there for people and different companies. And
how's it feeling not being in the room?
In the beginning, it was very awkward. I mean, you could literally with your face against that screen. And you're literally, like running away from the screen, trying to show the movements. And I had to learn, I mean, that was something, in the back of my mind anyway, that I have to learn to use more words and show less physically, because at some point my body is not going to be able to do everything I do, because I'm pretty active as a choreographer. So I'm learning, and it's been wonderful. I see this as a project of making a diary about this lockdown period. of our artistic life. What, you know, how does it look and how can I communicate with you through the screen? And actually, you know, with Jacob Spilo, we're going to give the summer program online. And so it feels now that I'm sort of like practicing how to communicate through a screen.
Tell us a little bit about the Jacob's Pillow program.
So I've become the director of the Contemporary Classical Summer Program, and that is, you know, every year in June, 2 weeks with 22 dances. And now we're going to be giving it online. So we're going to teach them something. We're going to choreograph something on them. We're going to tell them to watch ballets that is on the Jacob Spilo archive, and we're going to discuss those ballets, because there's so much online to be seen, and it's so easy to not be focused. When you watch something, you can just stop it, you can go to the bathroom, you can watch your phone. So we really want the youth to learn to be, you know, focused and see and watch and observe the ballet. And so the next day we always have a discussion about it, so that they really learn to watch and to create focus. And because at Jacob Spilo, what is so, you know, riveting about that, you know, those summer programs, is that people become friends for life, because they interact also outside of the program. So we are going to ask them to go 2 by 2 and create little phrases so that they get to know each other. Otherwise, they're just going to be these little square faces on a screen just watching me, and they get to know me. And that's not the point of a program. It's also, you know, gaining friendships for lives. So yeah, we're, you know, it's going to be our first time. So obviously there's going to be a lot of flaws and learning and, you know, and adapting the course as we go along. And hopefully after 2 weeks, we can present something like a little movie.
Okay, here we go. Lightning round. The
Okay.
fun. Here we go. Favorite dance memory?
I performed once for 10,000 people in Colombian arena. And as I walked on stage and the music had started, I could hear my name. And I thought, oh my God, that is what it feels like to be a rock star.
Rock star.
Yes.
Which is exactly what you are. Speaking of which, walk-on song, your song that pumps you up.
Well, right now I'm listening to African jazz. And so it's not a song, it's just the music that I put on, and it just brings me, you know, they call it the Baobab Orchestra.
Oh yeah, Orchestre Baobab.
Yes.
Très bien. Oh yeah.
Yes. I have it on every day. It just puts me in a great mood.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's totally a groove kind of thing. Oh, it's wonderful. Yep. Sweet or savory?
Sweet.
Broadway or West End?
Broadway.
We'll have to talk about that sometime. Dream travel destination post-lockdown?
I travel so much that I don't really have a dream destination. I hope one day I can go back to the Amazon, you know, area in Colombia, because I visited only when I was 7 years old. So it would be nice to do that again.
La Bayadère or Le Corsaire?
La Bayadère.
Quickly, why? I'm just curious.
I just saw Le Corsaire not so long ago, and I love the dancing for the men, but I think that the women being slaves, that just really did not go well with me. It didn't go down well. So.
Yep. Guilty pleasure?
Oh my God, guilty pleasure. I don't know. Nails. I miss them actually. Going to the nail salons.
All right. Romantic classical tutu or pancake tutu?
Pancake tutu.
Palais Garnier, Royal Opera House, or Metropolitan Opera House?
Royal Opera House.
Choose a scene, rubies, emeralds, or diamonds?
Rubies.
Because, I'm not surprised, but...
It's sassy and a little jazzy.
Yep. Adagio or Grand Allegro?
Grand Allegro.
Favorite city?
Amsterdam.
There's a lot there to love. Oh my gosh, there's so much to love.
I came here, in parentheses, came here the first time when I was 20 years old, because, you know, I was living in The Hague at the time. And I walked out of the station. I thought, if one day I can live here, I will feel on holiday every day. And 6 years later, I found my first apartment here. So.
And there it is.
My dream city.
I love the fact that you're surrounded by water everywhere you go and flowers. And a garden can be this big, but people put flowers in it. It's extraordinary to me. Bar or center?
Center.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Graham or Cunningham or somebody
Right.
different?
Oh, hip hop.
Me too.
Hip hop, flamenco.
Hip hop, flamenco together?
No, hip hop or flamenco.
I was going to say, I would totally groove on hip hop flamenco. I could, yeah, I could see that. Rehearsal or performance? Me too. Point shoes, ballet slippers, barefoot, or something else?
Socks.
Okay.
I like the slidey
You like that?
motion.
I have bad knees, so that terrifies me. I have not asked this question before, but I think we're approaching that summit with you. Do you have somebody in mind to write your biography?
No. I'm not old. You know what? I saw the biography, a documentary about Isabelle Huppert the other day, and it was so wonderful to see an older actress reminisce all the stages of her career with also, you know, bits and pieces from her acting and her, you know, on television. And that was wonderful. I think you need a certain life to be able to talk about it. But I think I'm too young. I'm too fresh.
Start thinking about it. You've done so much. So you and I have talked about this a little bit before. You're on record talking about it, but I'd be interested to hear what you think generally can be done to improve the culture in ballet, if you think it needs it for women, and then what Dance Data Project in specific can do.
I think really we have to start at the source in the education. I think we need to, especially for, you know, there's a lot of female choreographers, but they're all contemporary choreographers. So somewhere in the classical ballet education, we ask our ladies not to talk and not to have an opinion. And we need to find some courses where we put them to talk and to vocalize and to use, you know, to open up that chakra. Because when you talk to really young ballerinas, they talk like this, especially when they talk to you. And then, you know, they have one glass of wine and they have a very normal voice. So it's not that we want them to drink, but, you know, you have to come to yourself and believe that what you have to say is interesting or can be heard. And there's something in the education that does not allow that or doesn't, you know, nurture that. So I think there we have to start at the beginning.
I could not agree with you more. There's a fabulous woman named Ava Stone who is running a program at Pacific Northwest Ballet called New Voices. And she works with 14 to 16-year-old girls. I'm helping underwrite that. And then they're moving into the second year. And then I was really surprised to hear and delighted. There's a ballet school in Chicago, A&A Ballet, Alexei Kremnev, who's offering scholarships to starting at 10 years old. You send in a video, a 2-minute video of your choreography, and you said you started choreographing at 11.
Yeah, which was in school. Yes, it's our teacher. She gave us, you know, 1 hour free with a pianist. And then she said, I'll come back in the after the hour and then you'll show what you made 2 by 2. And we were 16 dancers. So we had 8 groups choreographed on the same music. So suddenly you could see the differences that, you know, all the interpretations, possibilities of that one music. You know, it's also once a young woman comes into a company, of course, what she wants to accomplish is to become a soloist one day. And sometimes the fact, you know, if directors shouldn't think that because she's focused on choreographing, that that's going to take away of her commitment to become that ballerina. And I think that ladies, you know, we are afraid that we are seen as not being fully 100%, 150% committed for that life. So, you know, it's also good to have and interesting to have in your roster of dancers who are more creative, because they are more, you know, into being creative, but they can be very good dancers, but maybe they don't, you know, aim to be that, you know, prima ballerina, but that still can mean that she's an interesting artist for the company.
I hadn't heard that before. Thank you very, very much for your time, Annabelle Lopez Ochoa. We can't wait to see you back and what else you are working on. And we're deeply grateful that you took the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.